Alright, so after a quick glance at the OnePlus 6's spec sheet, you'd be forgiven for basically thinking it rocks the same camera tech as last year's OnePlus 5T, just in a centrally mounted position now. However, there have been a couple of significant changes made in the interim. So once again, yes, you do get a 16 megapixel primary lens with f1.7 aperture, backed by a secondary 20 megapixel lens, again with an f1.7 aperture. However, now you get some different Sony sensors actually enlarged to suck up more light for low light situations. Always good if you take a lot of evening snaps. And you also now get optical image stabilization built into that primary lens, which again will help out with those low light situations. Now, I've actually done a full comparison between the OnePlus 6 and the OnePlus 5T's camera tech, so go check that out if you want to see what the results are in terms of photo and video quality. But what we're going to do right now is just do a deep dive into the OnePlus 6's camera tech and check out exactly what you can expect if you pick up this latest flagship phone. Now, first off, just a quick tip for you. If you dive into the buttons section of the settings menu, you once again get the press power button twice for camera option, and this works at any point even when the phone is hibernating. Just a quick double tap of that power button and you'll launch straight into the camera app. Of course, you won't be able to check out your photos without actually unlocking the device, but you will be able to just take some quick snaps, quick bit of video, and that's always good for those impromptu shots. Once you've dived on into that OnePlus camera app, you'll basically notice that it's the same layout as previous versions. So it's nice and simple and straightforward. You just get quick access to the most popular modes, photo, video, and portrait right here on the front screen. And of course, you've got a bunch of simple toggles as well down the side of it, the likes of your HDR, timer, aspect ratio, and the flash. So it's a nice simple layout, really, really nice and refreshing to use. If you want to zoom in, it's just a quick tapper there and you're immediately into the 2x zoom. And you can also flick your finger up there and down to really do a deep zoom. There we go, there's Mr. Teddy up close. Jump on into that video mode and you can once again shoot full HD footage at either 30 or 60 frames per second, or you can bump it all the way up to 4K resolution footage as well. And now the OnePlus 6 adds the option of 4K 60 frames per second for some hyper realistic results. Go check out our full samples over on Recombu if you want to see it in action, but what we will say is that the EIS that takes place during video shooting really helps to make things nice and smooth, even when you're shooting at 60 frames per second and even at that 4K Ultra HD resolution setting. No more hanging around waiting for an over-the-air update for OnePlus to sort it out. If you want to access the camera settings and further modes, all you need to do is flick your finger out like so, and you dive straight into the extra modes. Now there's only a small selection, and that's absolutely fine by us because at least they've pretty much all earned their place there. We don't really tend to shoot time-lapse video very often, but slow motion is always good to see. And of course it's been improved for the OnePlus 6, more on that in a second. You also get the panorama mode, which is always nice when you're shooting a Vista. And of course you get your full Pro controls as well, which is always great. Once again, this shoots in RAW format on demand. You can actually turn that off if you don't want to shoot in RAW. You just want to shoot in the standard JPEG, I believe it is. And of course you've got the usual timer and everything, and then down this side you've got your full manual controls. So for instance, the white balance you can have a bit of a play around with to get some very funky results, and it also helps out especially when you're shooting in artificial lighting and the rest. You can change your shutter speed, all that kind of stuff as well, and when you're ready to take a shot, again just tap the shutter button. And of course one of the more useful features as well is that level, which is particularly good if you're shooting, for instance, a large building, a monument, something like that. You don't want a wonky shot, you want to make sure it's perfectly straight, so it's always good to see. Obviously it turns green when you get a nice level shot, good to go. And of course when you pull out that extra bonus camera modes section as well, you also have access to the full settings. There's not a massive amount of settings in here, but for instance you can turn on the likes of the rear camera beauty mode if you want to get everyone looking all smooth and shiny. You can turn on obviously the watermark. Quick capture as well is quite handy. It basically instantly takes a photo when you launch the camera by double tapping that power button. So again, if you take a lot of impromptu shots, that might be worth turning on, and just little bits like that. So it's worth diving into there and having a bit of a play. Now, as usual, one of the funkier modes is that portrait mode. Just uses both lenses to latch onto your subject, keeping them nice and crisp while blurring the background in a lovely Bakker style effect. The results can be really, really stunning, although sometimes there is a little bit of silhouette blurring depending on the general conditions. But you can deactivate or activate the beauty mode as well, just to smooth them over a bit. We prefer having it off, to be honest, because everything does tend to look a bit artificial with that on. Although I realise that's very much the fashion with the Instagram lovers out there. You've also got a bizarre hallucinogenic sort of background effect that you can turn on as well, which basically adds a lot of hearts or stars into the background. It's quite trippy. Here is one I shot earlier, and as you can see, it's completely mental. Well, the only real feature changes that is in play for the OnePlus 6 is the new super slow motion mode, as they term it. Unfortunately, it's not full 960 frames per second as you get on the likes of the Sony Xperia XZ2, Galaxy S9, things like that. But in our opinion, this is a lot more user-friendly. It actually shoots a full minute of footage at your chosen resolution and everything, so you don't have to just tap a quick button and just shoot a millisecond of that super slow motion footage. Unfortunately, obviously, the FPS isn't quite as strong. As a result, it's 1080p at 240 frames per second or 720p at 480 frames per second. The 720p stuff tends to look a bit grainy in our opinion, which is why we don't particularly like the Galaxy S9 or the Huawei P20 efforts. We'd rather keep it on that 1080p at 240 frames per second. The results are really solid. As you will see, you go check out our full OnePlus 6 versus 5T camera comparison. And once you shoot your bit of slow motion footage as well, so just have Teddy dancing a little bit. Lovely stuff, thanks Teddy. You can then stop it, you can dive into the video editor, and it basically is activated by default. When you hit play, as you can see, you can then decide which bits of the video to make slow motion, just for the quick play around with the little timeline here. And you can make the entire thing slow motion if you want, or just a small snippet, as you can see there. But unfortunately, you can't make multiple snippets slow motion. At least we haven't found a way to do that anyway. And you can also trim the video if you want. And then when you're done, just hit save, and it's good to go. And you can watch it back on your laptop, share it online, do whatever you want. Now, if you swap around to that front-facing camera, there's me looking as sweaty as ever. You'll notice that, of course, the portrait mode has disappeared. You've just got your standard photo and video modes. You can shoot at 1080p using that front-facing camera. It's a 16 megapixel camera, same as before, again with an f2.0 aperture. As you see, if you try swap into the portrait mode, it just takes you back to that rear camera. So at the moment, you can't shoot a portrait mode using the front-facing camera, although OnePlus has promised us that that will come in a future update. Likewise, you can't shoot slow motion video or a pro mode shot using that front-facing camera either. That's all just using the rear by itself. However, if you do want to take a portrait shot of yourself, you've got nobody else around to help you out, there is a way of getting around it. If you actually dive into the settings and then go to gestures, you'll see in there, long press to take a photo, fingerprint gesture. So what this does is basically, if you're in the camera app, you hold down that fingerprint sensor, it will then take a shot. So what you can do is you can just stick it on portrait mode. Right, so it's now got the depth effect and everything on the go. Point the camera at yourself, hold down that shutter, the fingerprint sensor, and that basically acts as a shutter button. And then if we go into photos, there we go, a portrait mode shot of yourself using the rear camera. So there's a handy little get around until OnePlus releases that update. And that right there is a full tour of the OnePlus 6 camera tech. As I say, go check out our full in-depth comparison of the OnePlus 5T and the OnePlus 6 to see exactly what the differences are. And over on Recombu, we've done a full OnePlus 6 camera review as well, if you want to go see lots and lots of photo samples, video samples, and the rest. So thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to give us a like and a subscribe, and ding that notifications bell as well to see more on the latest tech. Thanks for watching.